You were told to max out your 401k no matter what every single year. That advice sounds responsible, disciplined, and safe, but it quietly hides a real problem. For many Americans, maxing it out is not the smartest financial move they can make today. It can actually trap your money, choke your cash flow, and slow your real wealth building. I know that feels uncomfortable to hear after years of being told the opposite by everyone. So let us slow down and walk through the honest numbers nobody bothers to explain clearly. You are not behind because you did not max it out, and that matters more than you think. You may actually be ahead in ways the standard advice cannot measure or even recognize properly. The financial industry loves simple rules because simple rules sell products and reduce hard conversations. Max your 401k is one of those rules, repeated until it sounds like gospel truth. But personal finance is personal, and the same number can mean different things in different lives. Let us start with what maxing actually means, because most people do not even realize the figure. The annual employee contribution limit for a 401k is over $23,000. That is more than $1,900 pulled from every single month of your working paycheck. For most middle-class earners in America, that number is not casually available without real consequences. If you make $70,000 a year, that is roughly a third of your gross income. After taxes, health insurance, rent, food, gas, and life, that contribution can leave you completely squeezed. You end up technically wealthy on paper while feeling broke and anxious in your real daily life. That is the part nobody warns you about, and it is the part that quietly damages people. Money you cannot touch for decades is not the same as money that protects you today. Both matter, but they are not interchangeable, and treating them as equal is a serious mistake. Let me show you what this looks like in real life with someone you probably already recognize. Picture a 32-year-old earning $80,000 who decides to max her 401k. She feels proud, disciplined, and finally in control of her financial future for the first time ever. But 6 months later, her car breaks down, and she needs $4,000 in sudden repairs. She has no emergency fund because every extra dollar went straight into her retirement account each month. So she puts the repair on a credit card at 24% interest, telling herself it is fine. Now she is paying high-interest debt while patting herself on the back for retirement contributions. The math has quietly turned against her, even though she is doing what experts told her to do. This is the trap, and millions of Americans live inside it without ever seeing it clearly. You cannot save your way to wealth if you are bleeding cash from the other side at once. Every dollar locked in retirement that forces you into debt is a dollar working against itself entirely. So before you max anything, look at the full picture of your financial life with calm, honest eyes. Start with the employer match because that part is real and almost always worth taking fully advantage of. If your company matches up to 5%, contribute at least that much to capture the full match. That match is free money, and walking away from it is the one mistake almost no one disagrees on. But after the match, the math gets more interesting, and the conversation finally starts to open up wider. Beyond the match, your next dollar has options, and 401k is only one of them. You could build an emergency fund that protects you from the very debt that quietly destroys wealth. You could pay off high-interest credit cards earning you a guaranteed return no market can promise. You could fund a Roth IRA, which gives you tax-free growth and far more flexibility later. You could invest in a regular taxable brokerage account that you can actually access before age 59. Each of these dollars works differently, and pretending the 401k is always best is intellectually lazy. Here is the part the standard advice rarely admits, even though it is mathematically obvious once you see it. A 401k locks your money up for decades with penalties for early access in most cases. If you need it at 45, you pay a 10% penalty plus regular income taxes on withdrawal. That is not a flexible asset. That is a long, slow promise to your 65-year-old self. And life between now and 65 is full of moments where flexibility matters more than tax deferral. Job loss, medical emergencies, business opportunities, family needs, housing changes, all of these demand accessible cash. Locking everything behind retirement walls in your 30s can leave you cash poor in your most important decade. Let us talk about the tax story, because that is where most people get the most confused. A traditional 401k gives you a tax deduction now and taxes you later in retirement. The pitch is simple: You save on taxes today and pay them when your income is presumably lower. But that assumption is doing a lot of heavy lifting, and it does not always hold true at all. Tax rates change, your retirement income may be higher than expected, and Social Security adds more complexity. If you have a pension, rental income, or sizable taxable investments, your retirement tax bracket might surprise you. Many retirees discover their effective tax rate is not nearly as low as the salesperson promised it would be. Meanwhile, money in a Roth account grows tax-free and comes out tax-free in retirement, period. That is a powerful asset that gives you tax diversification, and most maxers ignore it completely without thinking. Now let us decode what is really going on emotionally when someone insists on maxing no matter what. Sometimes maxing is not a financial decision, it is an anxiety decision dressed up in responsible language. It feels like control, like proof that you are doing the adult thing, like protection against future regret. But financial peace does not come from one number, it comes from a balanced and flexible structure. If you are maxing while drowning, you are not building wealth, you are performing wealth for an invisible audience. That distinction matters because performance burns you out, while structure quietly compounds in the background of your life. Healthy retirement saving feels steady, intentional, and connected to a real plan you actually understand and trust. Fear-based saving feels rigid, anxious, and disconnected from the rest of your present financial life. You can spot the difference by asking one quiet question: am I saving from clarity or from fear? Clarity asks, what does my whole financial life need? Fear asks, what number makes me feel less guilty? Those are very different questions, and they lead to very different outcomes over the next 20 years. Here is another nuance the standard advice almost never mentions, and it can change your entire planning approach. Cash flow during your working years is its own form of wealth, even if it never gets celebrated. Having money you can actually use gives you options, leverage, and the power to walk away from bad situations. It lets you negotiate at work, take a sabbatical, start a business, help a parent, or move cities. A maxed-out 401k cannot do any of that for you in the years it actually matters. So you have to balance future you with present you, and neither one should completely starve the other. A common smarter sequence looks something like this when you walk through it calmly and without panic. First, contribute enough to your 401k to capture the full employer match every single paycheck. Second, build an emergency fund covering 3 to 6 months of essential living expenses in a high-yield account. Third, pay off any debt charging you more than 7 or 8% in annual interest charges. Fourth, fund a Roth IRA up to the annual limit for tax-free flexibility later in life. Fifth, then return to your 401k and increase contributions toward the max if it still fits. Sixth, consider a taxable brokerage account for goals that fall between now and traditional retirement age years. That sequence respects both math and human life, and it does not pretend everyone has the same situation. Now let us run honest numbers on someone choosing balance over maximum contribution at every possible moment. Take a couple earning a combined $120,000 in a typical American city today. If they max 2 401ks, that is over $46,000 off the top yearly. After taxes and basic living costs, they have almost nothing left for emergencies, travel, or unexpected life events. They feel pressure every month and start resenting the very plan that was supposed to bring them peace. Now imagine the same couple contributing 15% total across retirement accounts instead of going all the way. They still build serious wealth, capture the match, fund Roth accounts, and have real money in the present. Over 30 years, the difference in retirement is meaningful but not catastrophic, and the difference in life is enormous. They take the trip, fix the roof, change jobs without panic, and actually enjoy the years they are living. That is wealth working for you instead of you working only for some distant future version of yourself. Here is a phrase worth keeping in your back pocket when someone pressures you to max no matter what. You can simply say, "My priority is cash flow right now," and that sentence ends the conversation politely. You do not have to justify it, defend it, or explain your full financial structure to anyone else. Another useful phrase is, "the math does not support that," when someone insists on a one-size rule. Or, "I need flexibility, not pressure," when retirement contributions start crowding out the rest of your real life. These are not motivational slogans, they are decision tools, and they protect you from emotional financial pressure. You can also pause, wait one day, and run the numbers before increasing any contribution percentage at work. That small habit of pausing before financial commitments has saved more wealth than almost any single investment strategy. Let us talk about another quiet trap inside the max-it-out culture that almost nobody likes to mention. Some 401k plans have high fees, limited investment choices, and mediocre fund options across the board. If your plan charges 1% in expense ratios across average funds, that is a real long-term drag. Over 30 years, high fees can quietly eat hundreds of thousands of dollars from your final retirement balance. So maxing a bad plan can be worse than partially funding it and investing the rest somewhere better. A low-cost Roth IRA at a major brokerage often gives you cheaper funds and broader options. This is why blindly maxing without checking your plan quality is a financial decision made on autopilot. Pull up your plan documents, look at the fund expense ratios, and see what you are actually paying. If the funds are expensive and the choices are limited, max the match and move extra dollars elsewhere instead. That is not rebellion against retirement saving. That is intelligent retirement saving, with eyes finally wide open. Now let me name something that is rarely said out loud in personal finance conversations across America today. You are allowed to enjoy your money in your 30s, 40s, and 50s, not just in your 70s. Delayed gratification is powerful, but delayed life is a different thing, and the line between them is real. If maxing your 401k means you never travel, never rest, and never breathe, something is wrong. Wealth is supposed to expand your life, not shrink it down to a single number on a statement. The healthiest savers I have seen treat retirement as one bucket, not the only bucket they ever fund. They contribute consistently, capture matches, use Roth accounts, and still keep room for the life happening right now. That balance is harder to teach than a simple rule, but it is the truth most experts quietly know. Let us also talk about the person nearing retirement, because the math shifts again in those final working years. If you are 55 and behind on retirement, maxing including catch-up contributions absolutely makes sense for you. You have a shorter runway, fewer competing goals, and tax deferral becomes more valuable in those higher earning years. So maxing is not always wrong, it is just not always right, and timing matters more than people realize. The mistake is treating one strategy as universal across every age, income, and life situation people actually face. A 26-year-old with credit card debt should not be maxing a 401k right now. A 58-year-old executive with no debt and high income probably should be maxing aggressively, immediately. Same advice, completely different outcomes, depending entirely on the person standing in front of the decision today. That is what personal and personal finance actually means, and it is what most generic advice quietly forgets entirely. Here is one more layer worth understanding before you decide what to do with your next contribution increase. Wealth is built by three things working together: your savings rate, your time invested, and your overall flexibility. Most advice obsesses over savings rate and ignores the other two completely, and that is a real blind spot. Time matters because compounding needs years, but flexibility matters because life will test your plan in unexpected ways. A plan that cannot survive a job loss, a medical event, or a family emergency is not a plan. It is a fragile spreadsheet that looks impressive until reality shows up and quietly breaks the whole thing. So when you build your retirement strategy, ask whether it can absorb a plunge without collapsing entirely on you. If the answer is no, you do not need to save more. You need to save in a smarter structure. That might mean a smaller 401k contribution, a bigger emergency fund, and more accessible investments. It might mean a Roth IRA that you could touch in a true emergency without massive penalties. It might mean keeping cash flow open so you can pivot when an opportunity or threat appears in life. This is where psychology meets math, and where the best financial decisions actually live in real adult life. So let us bring this all the way home with a clearer way to think about the entire question. Maxing your 401k is not heroic, and not maxing it is not lazy or irresponsible. Both are tools, and tools only matter when they fit the job standing in front of you right now. Your real goal is not a maxed out retirement account. It is a financial life that actually works. A life with options, breathing room, growing wealth, manageable risk, and a future you genuinely look forward to. If maxing supports that life, do it with confidence and never look back at the decision again. If maxing is squeezing you, draining you, or forcing you into debt, scale back without guilt or shame. You are not behind because you adjusted, you are wise because you noticed and made a calmer decision. The people who win with money long-term are not the loudest savers or the most extreme contributors. They are the ones who build flexible, balanced systems they can actually sustain through every season of life. They capture matches, fund Roths, keep emergency funds full, invest steadily, and protect their cash flow on purpose. They do not perform wealth, they build it quietly, decision by decision, year by year, without dramatic gestures. And one day they look up and realize they have real freedom, not just a big retirement balance. That is the goal, and it is available to you the moment you stop following advice that ignores you. Run your own numbers, look at your own life, and choose the plan that fits the person you actually are. Capture the match, protect your cash flow, fund the right accounts, and let the rest grow patiently over time. You do not need to max anything to win, you need to think clearly and act with intention consistently. That is the honest math, and it is also the honest emotional truth most financial advice will not say. If this gave you a calmer way to think about your retirement strategy, take a moment and reflect. Look at your next paycheck, look at your full financial life, and ask what your money actually needs. If this perspective helped, leave a comment with the one idea that hit you hardest while listening today. Subscribe if you want more honest financial thinking that respects your intelligence and your real human life. You do not need to save harder, you need to decide smarter, and that starts the moment you choose. Before you go, let me leave you with one more layer that ties everything together inside this conversation. The 401k was never designed to be your only retirement plan, despite how it gets marketed today. It was created to supplement pensions, not replace them, and that history changes how you should treat it now. When pensions disappeared, companies quietly handed the full burden of retirement to workers without raising wages to match. Maxing it out feels like personal discipline, but it is also a response to a system that shifted real risk. Understanding that does not change the math, but it does change the guilt you carry about your contribution percentage. You are not failing if you cannot max it. You are navigating a system that is genuinely harder now today. Give yourself credit for showing up, thinking carefully, and refusing to follow advice that does not fit your life. That clarity is worth more than any single contribution bump, and it will guide every financial decision from here forward.